This podcast is certified fresh. Freshmediaworks.com.
But I went in on Monday, had my first casting on Wednesday, had my first shoot on Friday, and I'd gone from working in a bar, making £5 an hour, to a place where they're going to pay me 50 quid an hour to take my picture? Okay.
Welcome to Lunch with Chris, where your host, Chris Doelle, brings you uplifting interviews with extraordinary individuals making a positive impact. Join as he introduces remarkable people who have left their mark on their respective fields.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Ty Gipson to the show. Ty, how you doing?
Man, I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. I tell you, as you know, I do this show where I just chat with people that I think are cool. And you and I have run in the same circles for decades, but we really didn't connect until maybe a year ago or so. And boy, am I glad we did.
Well, first I want to go back to that comment. I'm just glad to be I get classified as being cool. So that makes me feel good.
I love it. I love it. I will tell you, it's a low barrier to entry because I find everybody cool.
Well, you didn't have to say that, but no, we've been running the same circles, and like you said, it's being in the industries that we're in. We've crossed paths a lot, but it's been really neat to get to know you and see what all you're doing. I'm still learning all the different things you do.
I love it. So let's jump back. We've kind of came in the middle of the movie here for people. Let's jump back. Where did you grow up? Tell us that story.
And I grew up in a small town in Texas, Bridge City, Texas, Southeast Texas, down by Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange, kind of sits right there, a small town on the coast, right before you go into Louisiana on the coast.
Yep. Golden Triangle, right?
Golden Triangle, back in the day. Yeah, that's right.
Nice. And what was life like down there?
I mean, I thought it was really a great way to be raised, but when I got out and went to college, I realized this wasn't normal upbringing. I lived on the bayou, I lived on the water. We hunt and fish. All our friends were just weekends. We were on the bayou. I mean, that's what we do. And now I go back to that water, and I'm like, did I really swim and just hang out in this water? And my kids they don't want nothing to do with that water. It's just it's like a chocolate milk color, but growing up, fishing and hunting and just and living life, it was a great place. Small town, everybody knew everybody, and it was great. It was good people.
Nice. And what did you do as a youth? What was your, besides hunting and fishing, that motivated you when you went off to college? Well,
I was a little different. I love sports. Sports is what was my driver. My brother and my sister and I all were baseball and softball. So we lived at the baseball parks growing up in little leagues. My dad coached us. My mom was involved with everything. So we were always, pretty much we were at practice and then weekends we were at the ball fields playing games all weekend. And my dad was umpiring. It was just one of those type where we were always there. But so sports was a really big thing. But as I got older, I also have fallen in love. I have an artistic side of me that I love art, and a graphic design. Very, more of a creative side of me. And I never knew really what I was going to do with that. But as I kind of got older, I really started having an interest in graphic design. And so when I left and went off to school, graphic design was something that I really wanted to pursue.
And where did you go to do that and how'd that turn out?
Sam Houston State is where I graduated from. I went my first 2 years at Concordia Lutheran in Austin, and then I went to Sam Houston State, um, and got a degree in marketing and graphic design, and absolutely, I mean, I loved it, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it.
Right.
And then I had an opportunity to do an intern opportunity came up at Disney on a college program, which was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
never been to Disney in my life. As vacation down there, we went on vacation. We went to Astro World and to an Astros game and back home. So I had never been to Disney, and I got an opportunity to do an internship and got selected as a part of it, being a part of the college program, which I knew nothing about. So I learned more about it. And my dad and mom said, "Ty, you ought to absolutely go do it. Check out what Disney's all about. It's a great company.
Yeah.
You learn how they, So I went, and honestly, Chris, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it really opened my eyes to a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I you're gonna laugh, but I mean they move you around in different positions and do some pretty. I got to see all parts of Disney. But when you work in the park, my role was the Jungle Cruise. So if you've been to Disney, that's kind of the one area where you get to kind of make fun of folks, and you got the little straw hat on, you're doing the little boat that drives around
So
the
you
canal.
you drove the boat and you made the comments?
I made the comments, and I was so they it was a lot of fun. But I always laugh though. So there was celebrities getting on my boat and people like that all the time, and I thought, man, what? And I mean, in fact, one day I forget who it was. It was a famous comedian got on my boat, and I'm like, I'm going to be telling him my goofy jokes, and he's like a professional comedian. But no, but it was an eye opener for me. So we worked in the parks, and then I ended up in the marketing and graphics department at Disney, and it was such a how do I say? I mean, just to be able to just see how they operate behind the scenes.
Yeah,
was
what education.
absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. And what did that lead to? Because obviously you're not still working at Disney.
No, I was there for several years, but I love, again, I loved art and I loved sports, and I never really thought in my wildest dreams, how can I pull these together?
Yeah.
And I just never really could. I mean, I never could figure that out. But as I came back and I met my wife, and we started looking at businesses. We wanted to do something in business, and so about a year we both kind of just really researched different things, and we ended up. And I said, I love the print side. When I was at Disney, I got to see that, and I thought that was a really neat way. And it has that art side of it that I felt like from a design standpoint. And then Crystal, my wife, is definitely the one that keeps me in line, I guess, for lack of better. But I mean, from the accounting side, that was kind of more her background. So it was a good mix for us.
Yeah.
So we went into a print business. We opened a printing company. I bought a print company in Georgetown, Texas here, but still had that vision. That still didn't get me there because it was more just B2B, and it was great, but it was more B2B. But I kept going to these Division I football games, and I'd sit there and I'd see these big graphics, and I'd go, "Wow, who does that?"
Yeah.
And then I'd go back. I went back to my hometown and went through my high school, and I was walking through it, and it just, you look at these cardinals, and you go, "Wow, there's 5 different cardinals. There's 4 different reds. There's no, you walk in the local schools here. It was all the same." And I thought, what if I took some of that Division I and tried to bring it to the high school level? And so I started really looking at that, and anyway, that's where this all kind of came together, and I started doing branding inside of high schools.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of the magic hit for me. And that's why I always encourage people. I mean, never give up, because I never thought sports and graphic design would be able to pull together, and it absolutely collided. And now, as you know, that's where we met. I'm, the founder of Waterboy Graphics. It was what came out of that, and it was able to be able to bring those two together. And now it's it's really neat to see that we're doing branding throughout the country on that.
Yeah, and definitely, you know how you pointed out the D1 schools having all these really cool graphic design stuff. Of course, Texas had to grab that because Texas leads the way, especially in football. But and now you're saying that it's going nationwide, right?
It has, it's been, I'll tell you the story. It was really a fun story. I got into this and we were doing um, branding local. Coach Phil Blue at the time was here at Georgetown, and he'd come back and go, "Hey, Ty, what about this? What about that?" And so we'd go over and we'd say, "Yeah, I can do that, Coach. Let me try it." And then we started getting stuff up around the Georgetown school. Then, as you know, every year the coaching, carousel starts, and coaches move, and then they'd go, "Hey, whatever you did at Georgetown, we want it here, we want it there." Well, it just started kind of getting around, and we're doing stuff in Dallas and all this, and we were able to do work at Cedar Hill back early on, and the coach there was Joey McGuire, who's
Yep.
obviously the Texas Tech head coach now, and he calls me one day and he says, "Hey, Ty, Under Armour's about to start sponsoring high schools, and they sent some proofs." And he said, "But I really like what you're doing here. Can I introduce you?" Absolutely. So anyway, made the introduction, and I sat down there, was talking to them, and they're really interested in doing. I'm thinking Cedar Hill. I'm excited. We're going to get to do Cedar Hill. Well, they said, "Well, would you be interested in doing all 30 schools around the country?" And they said, "Can Waterboy handle it?" And I said, "Yes, sir, absolutely." And after that meeting, I went and got in my truck, and I sat there for a minute, going, "How in the world can I handle that?" But the good thing is really that's what launched us,
Yeah.
because now, still to this day, and that's been, I don't even know. I mean, it's probably been 9 or 10, I don't know, probably 9 years ago. But now we still do schools all over the country from which Under Armour introduced us to. Um, and I was going, I remember a week after that meeting being in Seattle measuring a school, and I get a call from Under Armour, and they're like, "Ty, whoever your rep is in Florida, we need them at this school and that school." And I'll call Crystal. I said, "Crystal, get me a flight to Florida. I'm not
Right.
coming home." And I'm buying clothes at the airport basically just to get around. And it was a really, looking back on it, it was a lot of fun, but wow, it was a lot. But with that, we were able to get people now hired, and but we still, long answer though, Chris, is yes, we do stuff nationwide. We do, I would say about 70% of it now is Texas, but then we still do work throughout the country.
Got it. Got it. Cool. And then you haven't mentioned anything about health issues, which I find fascinating that, because that's such a huge part of your story, but it's not how you define yourself, right? So,
Right.
so give us a little background on that, when things started, and kind of walk us through the culmination that is what we call no options.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had my struggles with health throughout my whole life, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a young kid growing up in Bridge City, at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes.
Mm.
Um, and I growing up there, my mom and dad would taught me just to kind of dust off, keep going. I played sports. I was out there feeling horrible, but I kept, dad would just say, "Hey, keep going. You'll be all right. We'll take care of it when we get home," or whatever. Um, but at the age of 8, I never could get my diabetes controlled. They brought me over to Texas Children's multiple times trying to figure it all out. Finally, about 2 years later, at the age of 10, they came up with a device that was being used in the chemotherapy uh, area, but it was a syringe pump that they put insulin in,
Right.
and started using it as an insulin pump. So the first pump I had was almost 2 pounds, 1 pound 9 ounces, um, which was wow. They were trying to regulate me. I stayed in the hospital for months trying to get it all regulated, and it was challenging. All the different types of insulin at the time, long lasting, short, and then all these different types of things they were trying to bring into. But I was put on the insulin pump. Went through variations of the insulin pump. I mean, growing up, again, I told you I grew up on the bayou. I Mom and dad didn't treat me any different. I mean, I remember fishing and falling in the water with my pump and having to get a new one. I remember my dog took off with it one time because I took it off and set it on the bench while I was swimming. And I looked up, I couldn't find it. It was down the road it's, I mean, they did not treat me any differently, but it was what it was the way I was raised. But through those years, insulin pump changed. And then, let's fast forward. I mean, I had battles all through those years. College years were hard. I mean, it didn't slow me down. I mean, I still played athletics. I would take, in between innings, I'm taking shots, or I'm taking, putting my pump on and trying to put in insulin, and checking my blood sugars back with not with any kind of technology that they have these days, but I'm talking about where you prick your finger and then you put you read it. And but I went through all that. So, and then fast forward to I'm in my 30 year when I was 30 years old in 1999, my kidney started failing. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, hey, you got some serious kidney issues. And he said, being a diabetic, you got such brittle diabetes. He said, but there is a doctor in Baltimore that is doing a dual transplant where they do a kidney and a pancreas at the same time. He says, but you got to, you may be a candidate because you're younger, but we have to get you over there to see if you'd be a candidate. So I was able to go to Baltimore, do a lot of testing. I was a candidate. My mother, who was 60 at the time, told me, she said, Ty, if I can be the donor of your kidney, I'm going to be the donor if the doctors will allow it. I said, yes, ma'am. And so we got her tested, and she was an absolutely great match. She tested everything out. Everything came out well. So now I've got my kidney. I have to wait for a deceased donor's to pancreas, right? So we get on a waiting list for that. So we've got everything ready. I'm talking to my coordinators, getting ready, and you're talking to them, you're testing. I mean, I'm doing a lot of tests throughout just to make sure everything's ready, because there's a lot of things you've got to be at the time. If I get the call, I got to make sure I'm not sick or there's things, nothing else going on. So anyway, several months, I think it was more like 7 or 8 months, we waited, and we finally on Super Bowl Sunday, I never stopped working. And that's something I'm very proud of, because I would go to work every day, but I would take a nap at lunchtime, and then I would get home, and basically I would try to eat dinner, and then I go to bed, and then get back up and do it all over again. But I was at home, and I had some buddies that said, hey, let's go watch the Super Bowl. It was Sunday. And I said, absolutely, I'll go. I said, but I can't stay out that late because I got to try to get to work tomorrow, and I don't feel real well. And
right.
But anyway, I got back that night, and about midnight, the phone rang, and it was the coordinators in Baltimore, and said, hey, there's been an accident. We think we've got a perfect match for you from a pancreas, but I just want to get you prepared because we may need to get you on a flight and get you over here. So immediately I called my mother. First time ever that she didn't answer the phone when I called, which was but anyway, we connected, and sure enough, a couple hours later, we were on a flight and we headed to Baltimore, just like the movies. Though, I mean, it was hurry up, get everybody there, and wait, right, and then they get you ready, and then so when I went into surgery, we had my mom, myself, and then they were working on the pancreas that I was going to be receiving that has come in from an organ donor. So it was a 16-hour surgery, and it went amazing. In fact, when I woke up, my mother was sitting beside me in a wheelchair in a bed, near my bed when I woke up from recovery, because they did a laparoscopic to get the kidney out, which it was a little bit less, painful and for her, but but anyway, it went well, and it was an amazing run. The pancreas lasted about 12 years. So really, for about 12 years, I didn't have diabetes. You
Yeah.
know, um, it was an amazing feeling. I mean, I felt better. I felt it in just a lot of ways. It's not. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's just things that, as a diabetic, I just felt better.
Right.
Uh, and then my kidney lasted 20 years, and and just a couple years, 5 years ago, and it was in I guess that would have been 2019. My kidney started failing again, and my sister was signed up. She was going to be a donor. She matched already. She had already prepared. She had matched me, so we are excited about that. And we went right up to towards the end, and we found out that there was something with her kidneys that maybe wasn't going to be the right fit. So
Mm-hmm.
at this time, I'm going through dialysis, and Chris, I tell people this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. Dialysis was probably the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, about 8 months of getting up 3 days a week at 4:30, going till 9, and then I would go to work after that. But if you know somebody, if anybody knows people going through dialysis, all I can say is just pray for them, because it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard place. I mean, you go in there and there'll be people there that were there last week that all of a sudden didn't make it, right? And it's just hard to watch. All that place just kind of is a really hard place to watch. But got through that, and so we're still looking, and then my wife, who was a Crystal, who was a different blood type than me, is what she had told us. So she was always said, "Hey, let me do this now that my sister's not able to do it. Let me go in. Let's talk about that swap where I can donate my kidney, and then maybe somebody that matches you can donate their kidney." And I said, that would be awesome. I would love that. And so she went in, and she went to the doctors, do all her tests. And that day I get a call, and she's crying. And I'm like, what is wrong? And she says, Ty, God changed my blood type. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, no, I match you perfectly. And I'm like, wow. So, a lot, obviously there was a lot between that, but a couple months later, we went into transplant surgery, and I received Crystal's kidney. And so now I have my wife's kidney, and everything's working fine. I mean, it's been so to say I've had a little bit of health challenges, is probably an understatement, but there's, and it kind of goes to what we're talking about. I mean, everybody has something.
Yeah.
And I just grew up the way I was talking earlier. I just grew up where you kind of dust it off. And that's why I really never talked about my story. In fact, there's employees of mine that over the years that come up and go, man, I didn't know anything about that. Because I really just didn't talk about it.
Right. And like I said, that's not how you identify yourself, because
Right.
you're a good person, a upbeat person. You're a hard worker. You're motivated. That's how you see yourself, and that's how we.
And nobody wants to hear our problems, right? I mean,
that's
nobody
true.
ever wants to hear about problems.
That's true. When somebody says, how's your day going? You always say, oh, it's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But no, in this instance, hearing your problems is great, because you've turned that into almost evangelism, where you're helping people face things like this. So explain kind of what you're doing with No Options.
Well, it really started, as we talked about, I didn't really tell my story, but I was down at Crystal's families, and they were having a family gathering, and she asked me if I'd tell my story. I said, sure. So I told my story to some of them. I mean, if they want to hear my problems, I'll be glad to share it, right? And so I told my story, but then on the way home that night, Chris and I are driving back from Houston, and I got some text that said, "Hey, thanks for sharing. We're going to sign up to be organ donors."
Nice.
And I thought, wow, how? I mean, just by me talking, people, they're signing up to be organ donors. And then I go to dialysis and I see these people and I said, well, how selfish am I if I could just tell my story
Yeah.
and help others? So as the years, the last several years, when I was laying in bed and having some really challenging health moments of, am I going to get through this? Am I not? There were times where I really didn't think I would make it. I laid in that bed and I said, good Lord, if you just help me through this, I'll do whatever I can do to help. Well, so last year when Crystal and some of the roles changed within our business, and I have now taken a different position in the company, and had some time, right? I she kind of called me out a little bit and said, "Hey, now that we have some time, what do you want to do?" And so um, I now go around and try to encourage people. It started out I was really going to focus on diabetics
Right.
and transplants, but really as I started talking to people and started kind of gathering some data, it's become overcoming adversity,
Yeah.
because everybody today deals with some form of adversity. I mean, we get up, our car won't start, or whatever it may be. I mean, just there's always some kind of adversity, and so that's what I do now. I've started my own. It's a podcast that I try to talk to others about their adversity, to hear, so other people can hear it, and then also speak. I do some keynote speaking at when have the opportunity to talk about overcoming adversities and within different organizations.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really the key here. You mentioned nobody wants to hear your problems, but you don't when you explain the situation, you don't whine and you don't say, "Oh, poor me." No, you're all about, look, I had no option. I literally
Right.
had no option. And
Yeah.
and it's inspirational. That's what I love about
Yeah.
your story.
Well, Chris, and when this was going on, I was kind of, and what did I go when I would go through adversity? What were some of the things, And I would the three things. I have three steps that I kind of go through, and I encourage people, and I think these three steps can be applied in any type of adversity, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and one of them is I talk about is, are we going to grow? Or are we going to die? Are we going to get better? I mean, what's our options, right? We have no options. Let's get better. I mean, we can sit here and complain, like you said, or we can sit here and not do anything about it, or we can get better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, that's what you do. And then there's others where I go hope and despair. That's kind of how we think.
Hmm.
And then I get into humor and drama, and that's how we talk. So
Yeah.
the mind is powerful. And with those three steps, that's what really helped me through these.
I love that. I love that. And first off, congratulations on the podcast, or I should back up and say congratulations on surviving.
Yeah, I'm just glad, every day's a bonus day, Chris. So we're just glad to be here.
I love it. And by the
Yeah.
way, for your wife and your mom, are they like exempt now? They never have to give you a birthday present again?
Well, I tell you what, I say this all the time. I mean, what on Mother's Day, what in the world can you possibly do? My mother just turned 85. And then Crystal being my wife, and with our kids. I mean, on Mother's Day, I don't know, there's not enough treasures in the world I could gather.
Yeah.
So it's yes, I'm very thankful to them.
I love that. I love that. So, talk about the reaching out to you in terms of, look, I'd like you to come talk to my organization, maybe my kids, maybe my company. How do people do that?
Well, you can go to my website, Ty Gipson, and that's GIPSON.com. And there it's got my story. It's got a lot of things about me there that you can look through, and make sure I'm a good fit. But and that's all that you can click there, and for a booking right there, and you can connect with me, and I'd be glad to visit with you and see how we can make this work.
I love it. Gosh, Ty, I want to thank you so much, not only for your friendship, but for taking some time today and being on the show, because I love sharing your story. If I wasn't already an organ donor, your story would have made me one.
Good.
So I love
Well,
that.
I appreciate that, Chris. And same to you. I appreciate your friendship.
Cool. Thank you.
Ready to grow your podcast beyond 1,000 downloads per episode? Join the Podcast Masters Guild and unlock proven strategies, expert coaching, and a community of fellow podcasters to elevate your show. Visit freshmediaworks.com/PMG and start growing today.